Hola, Norte Americanos y amigos. Greg Patten, host of the Daily Spit Take, and today we're going to talk about a little game called Lost Records. It's the Tape 1 episode of Bloom and Rage. This is from Dotenod. This is from the people who make the Life is Strange games. This is Dotenod Montreal. So they split the studios up. The people who did Life is Strange Double Exposure are the same people who did Life is Strange Before the Storm and True Colors. This is the studio that did Life is Strange and Life is Strange 2. So now that you know the background, I'm not sure who did Twin Mirror. Not sure. That was the other Dotenod game, the one that I've not played. I've not played, I want to state that I have not played Double Exposure. I know they're doing more episodes, but what makes Lost Records Bloom and Rage different is it's 2 episodes. It's tape 1, it's tape 2. We're talking about they're making only 2 episodes. Now, Before the Storm had 3 episodes. So we got used to like shorter storytelling. But this is the most different departure for the Life is Strange team I think I've played. And one of the reasons it's very different is although it does follow a female protagonist, it does follow a group of female friends, as most of the Life is Strange games outside of 2 have. What separates this is, yes, there's an underbelly of the supernatural. But it's really just relationships in 1995 through flashbacks, items, videotapes, camcorder footage, and there's a current storyline that is happening in real time about what is occurring that brought them back. 2 friends reuniting, trying to get together with their whole crew. It has a very It feel to it. The Stephen King's It. It has a very much that kind of feel to it. There are things that happen throughout the game that hint at the supernatural sci-fi aspects, but they are not put right in your face. You knew really early on in Life is Strange that the decision for Max Caldwell was to save Chloe. You knew in episode 1. You knew in Life is Strange 2 that the 2 brothers, the younger brother, had superpowers. And how you managed his superpowers was going to be the key. I have played through the majority of episode 1. I've heard it's like 6 hours. I've put like 3.5, 4 in it. I don't know. I don't know yet what the twist is. I'm coming from this angle because I've put the time in. I haven't finished it. I will finish it because I want to know where is this going. But I want to give those initial thoughts. So this is a pre-review based on what I've played and whether or not, if you're a Life is Strange fan, should you give this game a go? I think that there is a lot to like here in terms of the way that they've set up the characters. But what I will say is this is the slowest game of the bunch. If you don't want to spend 20 minutes going through items in a room and you're a Life is Strange fan, I'm sorry. This one is not going to be. I had issues with True Colors because I felt like there was a lot of spending time outside of when they dropped the Kings of Leon record on you. I thought so much of that stuff felt ancillary and didn't really go anywhere. I have to say with this one that if not for the camcorder, I don't know how I would feel about this because there is a lot that you have to process in this game. You have to do video footage. You have to take edits. You have to go in and reassemble the footage. That gives it its own flavor because when you reassemble footage, when you edit things, the game tells a story around whatever footage you have. So, for instance, you could be out in the wilderness and you could capture all of the graffiti. that's been written. Swann is the main character. She will talk about how this graffiti became something that she was interested in and why was she filming it and how it caught her attention. Same thing with like going to the local chain video store where you can get all of the footage of the cutouts from the movie theaters to the store being closed, to the giant sign, to the roof, like the logos, all of this stuff is available. This is all optional though. If you choose not to film this stuff, there's not a lot going on. And the other thing that's happening is you will see items that you will click on and the characters will have flashback conversations, but they will not actually show the characters. They will put up the name of the character in a subtitle at the corner of the screen, and they will have a quick 1 to 2 sentence conversation about what this item had to deal with it. So for instance, it might be something as simple as you're in a bar in the modern day and you click on a beer bottle and they start talking about that the beer bottles had better ads in the 90s, or that this was the first type of beer that the character's dad let them drink. If you don't find any interest in this stuff, if you're not digging like I was to find out where are we going with this and why do we have to reunite and why are we promising our mother that we want to be home in time for Christmas? Swann lived in a suburb of Milwaukee. It seems like it's Green Bay. It's just outside. And then she moved to Vancouver, Canada. And she comes back to visit her friend. And we know from the advertising that the girls are in a punk band and Swann is basically wanting to be a filmmaker. So she's going to be a documentarian. So they're talking about allowing her to film them in the early part of the game. The game does allow for silent protagonists. I always appreciate that in these games because a lot of times I enjoy listening to characters talk versus interrupting them with just a 3-sentence phrase like, yeah, that's cool. Instead, sitting silent has had its perks where I've picked up on more dialogue, more character development. They're going to go with the aesthetic of the 90s from the standpoint of I've already seen mixtapes featuring bands that we all know from that era. Everything from Primus to Korn to Rage Against the Machine to Nirvana. It's all on the mixtapes. They've already made references to Bikini Kill and Riot Grrrl music of that era. You can see where the influences are with that. I think the thing that I really was impressed by was when it comes to setting up the antagonist, they're doing very similar to what Stephen King's It did with it being a bully situation. But they don't give the bully a gray area. They are horrible people. They are mean. They are nasty. They have no care for the girls who are involved in the story. And they leave no doubt that these are not people who you can kind of identify with. We went through the whole thing of Life is Strange with you had the teacher basically who came off so sweet and nice and everybody was like, oh, there's some undercurrent there. And then when you played further in the game, you understood where the twist was going. With Lost Records, there is no twist yet. I haven't played enough to know what the outcome of the first episode is. So once I've played more of that, I'll have more to say in regard to that. But really, this is about should you play it? And I think the reason that the reviews have been very middling for this game is I think that they had a problem of how do they tell this story in 2 episodes. I think they've got an interesting premise, but they haven't really executed yet on what are they trying to say. What is the point? We understand the bullying. We understand that outcasts need to make friends. We understand that punk rockers tend to stand together. And we understand that there are a lot of people who like to make home movies. And I think this game is struggling to find its voice early because it spends so much time with Swann just looking at items. And then when she's not looking at items current day, she's looking at items in 1995, and it's like, cool. She has a thing that allows her to do like an Etch-a-Sketch in 1995. Cool. She has a toy that is very similar to the feed pets on the keychain. She has toys that reflect the era. She has interests that reflect the era. She's got a ton of novels. I think I spent the first 20 minutes in her room just looking at her book collection. It was like, click on the books, click on the books. And they were all some variation of a Stephen King type novel, or they were a trashy romance novel she was hiding under her bed. I think that this game has put more depth into establishing Swann as a character than any of the other Dontnod games. The only problem is where is the there so far? I don't understand the motivations for the characters other than they're coming back to meet for some reason. Maybe it's on me that I haven't finished the episode. Maybe once I get to the episode, I'll have an ideal. But this is a true slow burn. I don't think this is the kind of game that if you're a fan of Life is Strange 2 or Life is Strange, that this is what you're looking for. Even if you were more in the crowd, I was not in the crowd that enjoyed True Colors. I think those people will probably even struggle with this, just because at least you had a group of characters that you had gotten to know and that the plot was moving somewhere. You spend 30 minutes looking for keys at night with a flashlight, and the character's dialogue is pretty much what you get out of it. You have the ability to film them, but filming them doesn't add anything unless it's going to be when you get done with the montage of what you filmed, then you may have an ideal of what all of this was about. But you have the younger sister who's rebellious. You have so far the lone African American in the story who is the person you're meeting in the present and who is the key component to the past. You have the person who wants to run off to Hollywood and become a rock star. And then you've got the character Swann who you're playing, who has a low self-esteem of herself. And I understand that they probably wanted to do a low self-esteem character because a lot of the characters they've had have not, in the Dontnod games, have not had that aspect. I get why they would want that. The problem is that when that dialogue choice comes up all the time, it feels like you want to force the mentality that she does not like herself to the player. And I've seen it happen in role-playing games where we've seen these archetype characters built who they don't feel good about themselves, and that's all they harp on. And it's like, you understand the situation they're going through. You understand the pain because we've all been outcast at some point in our life. But you get to a point with a video game sometimes where you're like, okay, what else is there to this character other than this one problem they just keep harping on? And unfortunately for Swann, even when she's an adult, she seems like she's struggling to talk about what she wants. She seems like she's in a position to where she's not quite sure what has changed about her and what her behaviors are. When her friend pulls out her phone and starts saying she has to take care of work, every one of your options is to be meekly. You don't even have the ability like, hey, could you put the phone away? Like, because we're supposed to talk about something important. It's, let me go get you a drink. Let me read something off the menu. Let's make a joke about graffiti on the window. Like, it just doesn't go anywhere with that. And that's so far been my biggest problem is I think they want you not to like the character. And I think the other problem is the character doesn't have a lot to say when one of the only quests that you've completed is to get your phone charged. It just feels, I get that they're trying to keep it everyday and normal. It just doesn't feel like it's building to something. And they continually will cut to flashbacks of them holding hands, standing over some type of pink and green glow. And you just keep thinking, okay, we're eventually going to get to that. And when the keys go missing, I was like, we're going to get to that, right? Well, now it's like everybody's just kind of moved on and you're filming little vignettes of each character, is very much in like 90s reality, the way the videos are being done. And that's all you've done. There's been nothing else regarding finding the keys. There's been nothing else regarding going into the sewer. Maybe that's too on the nose for it. But I think they've got something to say here, and I have to play more before I can give like a final verdict. But right now, if you told me, should I play this on Xbox? It's not on Game Pass. It's on PlayStation Plus. If you're in like the essential tier of PlayStation Plus, it's available. The first and the second episode will be available in April. So I always like when they spread the episodes out because that gives you a little bit of time to think about it. It gives you a little bit of water cooler talk with people who've actually played it. But right now, what I've played, I don't know if I can recommend it to a Life is Strange fan. I don't think it's moving quick enough. I don't think they've established the parameters of what you need to pay attention to. I think this is a lot of creative writing. I think it's a creative writing experiment, what I've played so far. And I hope that there's more to it than that. I know if you're a trophy person, okay, I've played like 4 hours of this. I've unlocked like 13 trophies just doing stuff with the video. Because it's like, oh, you can edit video. Okay, great, trophy. Okay, I didn't answer a question, trophy. Like, if you're one of those people, yeah, then definitely. But if you don't have PlayStation Plus Essential, I don't think I can recommend you run out and spend $39 on this, because I think you'd be better off playing Life is Strange or Life is Strange 2 if you haven't, or Before the Storm. I'm not going to recommend True Colors. I think that's one of the weaker stories, and it's very nonsensical. And I think Double Exposure, I just haven't spent any time with, so I don't have an opinion on that. But I know that this is very much the Paul Thomas Anderson argument, which is you don't criticize indie films. It's like you don't criticize indie games because we need as many of them as possible. And I agree with that to an extent because they're trying something new. But I also feel that if you spent $40 and the biggest accomplishment you had in 3 hours was finding a phone charger, I think you understand that if you're going from a gameplay perspective, that's not really compelling. So I'm going to play more. I'm going to have an opinion on this when I get to the end, and I'll probably even talk spoilers about it at that point. But until I actually finish it, I'm going to leave it there. Again, I would say if you have PlayStation Plus, you can give it a shot. If you don't, I would wait to see how episode 2 pans out, because they're only doing 2 episodes. That's all they're going to do for this series. So if they don't stick the landing at the end of episode 1, I really wonder how compelled people will be to play episode 2. But if you're on PlayStation Plus, you got the option to play it. That's going to wrap it up for today. The next game I'll be talking about will be Pirate Yakuza, counting down till it releases, and looking forward to that. We will talk again shortly. This has been the Daily Spit Take. I've been your host, Greg Patten. As always, I would like to dedicate this episode to my mother, who's recovering from stage 3 lung cancer. Take care. Keep your vibration high.